San Elijo is in a very high fire hazard severity zone. What does that mean? That means this community and all the buildings, structures, and homes within it will be subject to the Zone Zero regulations. Hey everyone, it's Chris here with Zone Zero California, and I want to remind you we are doing a giveaway. We're giving away a free pedestrian gate. It's an all steel design and construction made in Australia and built to withstand the intense heat of wildfires. It is the exact kind of gate that will get you Zone Zero compliant. So now what does that mean? Zone Zero is the 0 to 5 feet around any home or structure, and the regulations have to do with the building materials allowed in this area. This is for, or in response I should say, to the widespread damage over the last decade or so by the many wildfires that have torn through California. And this is an effort to create more resilient homes and properties in these areas known as fire hazard severity zones, so that they can withstand and survive the damage. Now, we know most of this damage is not necessarily always caused by walls of flames or even radiant heat, but about embers that get picked up and blown and land on other properties, sometimes miles away. And that's what Zone Zero addresses. It addresses the 0 to 5 feet around any home, property, or structure in an effort to make it more resilient and resistant to these ember storms. So it's mainly going to affect your landscaping, your fences and gates, and your decks and your patios. Now, when you combine those things with siding and roofing, that is essentially a more complete home hardening or fire hardened system, all right? And all of these things together all of these things should be considered together as part of a system in an effort to make sure your home is as protected as possible. So now, what does this look like in practice? Well, we know trees are a major source of contention. In fact, during this regulatory process, most of the pushback came from a lot of folks in Southern California saying, hey, these trees, they don't just provide, a higher quality of life, they provide shade, and that shade helps us reduce energy costs. I've seen studies that show shade from trees can reduce the effective temperature by as much as 50 degrees, and that's a lot. So, aside from that, you're going to have your grass, right? Your grass may need to transition to gravel or paver stones, right? The plants you have around your home may need to be in pots and not in planters, or you may not be allowed to have certain kinds of plants, and we'll see what they say. We're waiting on the final regulations to come from the state. We know the state's going to probably set some top level guidelines, and then places like San Diego County, Los Angeles County, they're going to issue their own more specific county level, city level, local level jurisdiction rules. So obviously, besides landscaping, I mentioned gates, which is why we're giving away a gate. Now, if you have an old wood fence or gate within that 0 to 5 feet of your home, that's going to need to be replaced. And as I've driven through the multiple communities here from Los Angeles to San Diego, besides the landscaping, most people still have old wood fences and gates. So that's why we're giving away a gate. Again, if you want to win, you just got to subscribe and then go to zonezerocalifornia.com, fill out the form, and download your guide. We're going to be doing a subscriber giveaway every 500 subscribers. So at 500, 1,000, 1,500, so on, we'll be giving away one free gate. So now, I mentioned old wood gates and fences. Not all wood is created equal. There are certain woods approved for use, such as hardwoods. Now, hardwoods are most commonly used in decking, and decking is the next area of concern we'll go over here when it comes to Zone Zero regulations. Like many old fences and gates, lots of decking uses redwood. Now, if you have a patio with a wood railing, that may also be redwood. So what do you need to do? Well, you need to be prepared to possibly replace some of that material, getting rid of your redwood and replacing it with approved hardwoods like Kayu Batu. So it's not about getting away from wood completely. It's about knowing what types of woods are approved for use. Now, decking, fences and gates, they all use hardwood. They can use hardwood. For example, you can have a steel fence or gate with hardwood. That's a common modern design. But of course, there's also composite materials like Trex or TimberTech. So those are also the types of materials you can consider when it comes to replacing your existing deck, your deck surface. Now, if you have wood framing, it is possible that that may also need to be replaced as well. We won't know for sure until we get final guidance, all right? But again, also, as I mentioned, if your house is built from a certain time period and it has wood siding, you may want to consider replacing that as well soon. That may not necessarily be dictated by Zone 0 regulations, but it could be something your insurance company insists upon. And we've seen that a lot over the past few years, where the insurance companies come in and act as the de facto enforcement mechanism for these types of building regulations. So again, I'm near San Elijo Road, the entrance to the middle school and the elementary school right behind me. We're gonna take a drive into the neighborhood here, as we always do, and see just what kind of homes and properties are in the area and the types of common problems or issues they may have when it comes to these Zone 0 regulations. All right, so enough from me, enough yapping. Let's get in the truck, take a drive. San Elijo Fire Hazard Severity Zone. If you want to be put in touch with local contractors, give us a call at zone0california.com or fill out the form and we'll get in touch with you right away. All right, so let's go take a drive. Hey, it's Chris. All right, we're back in the truck, and what I usually do first is show you guys on the map where I am. And this is the CAL FIRE map, all right? So now it says San Marcos here, but as I said, I'm near San Elijo Road, near the elementary school and the middle school here. So as I zoom out though, you'll see that this whole community is right in the middle of this entire red zone here, which is the greater San Marcos area. And of course, this is, you know, on top of a hill. Now this area that's kind of shaded more in like a peach or a pink color, the difference between these bolder colors and these lighter colors is the difference between a local responsibility area and a state responsibility area. Basically, the local government in these more prominent colors in these areas is responsible for, you know, the response, the damage, etc., whereas the state is responsible for the areas that are in these like lighter shaded areas. But as you can see, this whole area north here, San Marcos, right, this is essentially where we are right here. San Elijo Road's behind me. Let's take a drive into this neighborhood and see if we can find you know, any types of concerns when it comes to this Zone 0 stuff, to give you guys an example. All right, so let me just make sure it's safe, put on my seatbelt, of course. All right, so I usually always freestyle this part of the video. I don't know what to expect. You know, is this a gated community? Yeah, it looks like a gated community here, so we might be out of luck. Looks like maybe there's a park here. Okay, so this may not have been, you know, the best road to turn down for this example, but nevertheless, I was near Cal State University, San Marcos, and just kind of, you know, driving and traveling here. Oh yeah, it's another gated community up here, so I'm gonna have to turn around. But once I realized San Elijo was kind of its own area, I figured I'd do a video just for this area. Of course, I'm doing this to try to reach, well, the gates are open. The gates are open. I could have probably drove in there, but I don't want to raise any suspicions. You know, people kind of in these more affluent communities definitely don't like random people driving around with cameras, so we will punt on that. But you know what I can see from where I'm at, let me turn this down. Sorry, so there is another gated community right here, and I can see many of these properties from the back of the hill, and I can see wood fences between them. So San Elijo's, listen, if you guys have an old wood fence or gate, chances are it was probably part of the original build. You know, those kinds of wood gates really are only built to last 15, maybe 20 years. And now that you've got these Zone 0 regulations coming out, I think it's time to consider changing them for a number of reasons. One of which is, like, you may be compelled to here pretty soon. So that's it. San Elijo's community is in a very high fire hazard severity zone. I'll leave it there. And of course, if you want to get in touch with me, just go to zone0california.com, give me a call, and I'll connect you with licensed contractors in your area to help you with some of these changes. All right, thank you, and be safe.